What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sick Eric Tech, and today we're going to be doing a spec comparison between the new Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 and an oldie but a goodie, the LG Velvet. Now both of these are T-Mobile variants, so the Velvet is a little bit different than what you know, and of course this is the T-Mobile variant of the Moto G Stylus 5G. We're going to be comparing the specs on both of these guys, a few shots inside, and some display comparisons and things like that. So let's go ahead and jump down into it. Let's go ahead and go into some front-facing footage of both of these, just so you guys can get an idea of the camera and the recording when recording front-facing footage on both of these guys. So let's go ahead and go into the Moto G Stylus front-facing camera. Alright, so this is front-facing footage of the Moto G Stylus. It is capped out at 1080p, 30 frames per second. So let me know how this looks and how this sounds as far as the onboard microphones. We're not using any microphone. This microphone is connected to another phone. And this is just the phone itself using the built-in microphones and 1080p front-facing footage with decent lighting in here. So let's go ahead and go on to the LG Velvet front-facing camera. And here we get the LG Velvet front-facing camera. This can record up to 4K 30 frames per second. So as you can see, it's a little bit more cropped in. And how does it sound? Does it sound better than the Moto G Stylus, or does it sound worse? And as far as picture quality or video quality, which one looks better? So let's go ahead and dive down to the spec comparison right over here and get started with comparing the Moto G Stylus 5G versus the LG Velvet. Let's go. Alright guys, so let's jump down into it. So there's not going to be too much b-roll in here. If you guys haven't already guessed, it's hotter than balls out here in Texas. It's like 100 degrees, and that's not even the feels like temperature. So I have not had a chance to go to the park and take some pictures and some b-rolls. So you'll probably be seeing some pictures taken inside of some random shit, just because it is too darn hot outside. And pretty soon I'm going to be having a new work schedule. So for the past 10 years, I've been working overnight, so that gives me pretty much all day to go out to the park and do stuff and do videos. Well, now I'm going to be working during the day, and I won't be able to do that. So weekends will probably be my only chance to get out and do stuff for here on the channel. So just keeping you guys informed of the change here on Sick Eric Tech. So let's get started with the Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 and the LG Velvet. So going on over to dimensions of both of these guys. So the Moto G Stylus is about 6.41 inches tall from top to bottom, and it is about 2.91 inches wide and 0.36 inches thin. It weighs at about 7.13 ounces. You get a plastic back, plastic frame, and of course your glass front. No water repellent design. You do get the nice stylus on here, which is fantastic. So if you want to have that note features on here without the Bluetooth, you could do stuff. You could draw, you could do your calculator just by writing on here. You could sign some documents, things like that. It's very nice stylus, feels really nice and robust in the hand, and it pretty much just sets inside the device just like a Note 23 or a Galaxy S23 Ultra. So it's tucked out of the way if you do not want to use it. So that is fantastic. And like I said earlier, plastic frame, plastic back. Feels pretty solid in the hand though. You do get a matte finish on the Moto, so it pretty much repels fingerprints quite nicely over here. So it's not a fingerprint magnet. Now going on over to the LG Velvet, it is a fingerprint magnet. Comes in about 6.58 inches from top to bottom, 2.92 inches wide, and 0.31 inches thin. So it is definitely more of a taller device. Very nice and sleek. It weighs about 6.35 ounces, so it weighs a little bit less than the Moto G Stylus, and is definitely a little bit taller and narrow compared to the G Stylus. And as you can see right here, as far as the thinness goes, the LG Velvet definitely feels a lot thinner just because you have these curved edges on the back and the curved display, while over here on the Moto you get a flat display. So it feels a lot more thin in the hands. You get IP68 dust and water resistance. You get a Gorilla Glass on the front, and so it feels a lot better. You get an aluminum frame, so it feels more premium in the hand, and it feels a lot more durable. Well, plastic is durable than glass, but it just feels more premium in the hand. As you can see, the design right here looks a lot different compared to Moto's design. LG really knocked it out of the park with the design of the LG Velvet. It just looks nice and clean, very luxurious looking phone, and it feels very nice as well. You also get the MIL STD A10G compliant drop resistance over here, so that's fantastic for the LG. And going on over to both of these, as far as features go, look at that, they both have headphone jacks, fan freaking tastic, followed by your charger port, microphone, bottom firing speaker. Going on over to the side over here, you get LG's volume rockers on the left hand side, along with your Google Assistant button. And then over here on the Motorola, you get your SIM tray and micro SD card slot, while over here on the LG Velvet, the SIM and micro SD is up top. You get another microphone on both of these. Going on over to the right hand side, you get your power button, and which is also your fingerprint sensor and your volume rocker above that on the Moto, while over here on the LG you just get your power button. And the LG does have an in-display fingerprint sensor, no facial recognition on the LG, which is pretty sad, while over here on the Motorola you get your fingerprint sensor and the power button, and you also do get facial recognition, so that's quite nice when it comes down to that. When it comes down to displays on both of these guys, the Motorola comes with a 6.6-inch IPS LCD display with 120 Hz, has a resolution of 1080 by 2400 and 399 pixels per inch with an 87.5 screen to body ratio. And as you can see right here, the bezels are okay. They're a little chunky, especially that bottom bezel, but not too bad. It actually looks really good. It is a flat display compared to the LG Velvet, which is a 6.8-inch PLED display with a resolution of 1080 by 2460 with 395 pixels per inch. And the LG Velvet is curved, but it is only a 60 Hz refresh rate. But still, this display looks, I would say, a little bit better than the Motorola. I do not like the IPS LCD displays. That's just me, to each his own. People probably do. For me, I like PLED, OLED, any type of OLEDs out there. They're just more power efficient, and I think they just look better when it comes down to colors and saturation and things like that. So those are the differences between the displays, and I think they're both really good. I think the LG might be a little bit better than the Motorola when it comes down to display, but you guys tell me down below which one you think looks better. So the LG V60 has been recently updated to Android 12 with the promise of Android 13. I know the LG V60 has gotten Android 13, but the Velvet has not, so I'm hoping that we get that update soon. You are running over here on the MediaTek Dimensity 1000 chipset with the Mali G57 GPU. When it comes down to that, you get 6 GB of RAM and 128 GB of internal storage with micro SD card expansion on the LG, so that's fantastic. Going on over to the Motorola, you are running Android 13 right out of the box. Hopefully Android 14 probably be one of the last updates for this, and then you also get a couple more years worth of security patches. So Motorola is not really known for their updates, while over here on the LG you're probably going to get bi-monthly updates just because LG is out of the game, so keep that in mind. Android 13 on the Motorola, you're running the Snapdragon 6 Gen 1 processor with 6 GB of RAM, and this model is the 128 GB storage, and you also get that micro SD card expansion on the Motorola, so that is fantastic news. Both of these guys perform really well. I think the Motorola is a little bit more snappier than the LG. Of course, the LG could probably handle more when it comes down to that. There is a Snapdragon 765 version over here on the LG, which is the global version, but the T-Mobile variant is going to be the MediaTek Dimensity 1000, and I think the Snapdragon 765 would perform a little bit better than the T-Mobile variant, just saying that. While over here on the Motorola, you get a newer generation chipset, so performance on here has actually been pretty good. And while on the LG can be a little jittery and laggy sometimes, especially when you're booting it up, while over here on the Motorola, it seems to be doing okay for now. Now, when it comes down to the camera department on both of these guys, the Motorola has a 50 megapixel main sensor with an aperture of f1.9. You do get PDAF autofocus. Your secondary camera is an 8 megapixel with an aperture of f2.2. And it also does have autofocus. You can record all the way up to 4K 30 frames per second on the Motorola. Front-facing camera is going to be a 16 megapixel front-facing camera. And you can record up to 1080p 30 frames per second, and it does support HDR on the Motorola. While going here on the LG Velvet, you get a 48 megapixel main sensor, aperture of f1.8 with PDAF autofocus as well. You get an 8 megapixel ultra wide with an aperture of f2.2, and you also get that 5 megapixel depth sensor with an aperture of f2.4. You can record all the way up to 4K 30 frames per second on the LG Velvet. The front-facing camera is a 16 megapixel main sensor with an aperture of f1.9, does support HDR, and you can record up to 4K 30 frames on the front as well. So when it comes down to cameras and video, might have to give that to the LG Velvet just because you can record up to 4K on that front-facing camera. When it comes down to pictures and stuff, it might be a little bit of a toss-up. They both take pretty good photos. The stabilization on the LG Velvet is going to be a lot better than the Motorola just because LG really knows how to do it. You get more options on the LG than the Motorola, and 4K video might look a little bit better too on this front-facing camera and rear-facing camera for that. But there are not going to be very many pictures on here, just some random pictures flashing on your screen comparing both of these devices just so you could get an idea of the camera quality of both of them. But as far as that goes, which one looks better when it comes down to camera quality? A lot of people swear by the LG Velvet just because they love LG. Motorola is the new one on the block, and they're not really known for excellent cameras, but they are getting better with every device they release. They're upping it. Stabilization over here on the Motorola might be could be improved. It's not the best in the world compared to the LG, but as far as camera goes, they go blow to blow and back and forth. Now, both of these devices do have stereo speakers, which is fantastic. You get Dolby Atmos on the Motorola. When it comes down to settings, while over here on the LG, you get LG 3D Surround, which is fantastic. No quad DAC on this version of the LG or the other version, so that's kind of sucks. But like I said earlier, you do get headphone jacks on both of these, so that's fantastic. If you want to connect a nice pair of headphones, you can do so on here. And as far as the speaker quality goes, might have to give that to the LG just because it sounds better. The Motorola sort of sounds kind of muddled sometimes, and it kind of gets lost. The highs, everything just sort of gets thrown together and doesn't sound very clear. While over here on the LG, it definitely does sound better with that stereo speaker setup. On the Motorola, you get Bluetooth 5.1, and you also get USB Type-C 2.0. While over here on the LG, you get Bluetooth 5.1 as well, and USB Type-C as well over here on the LG. Now, when it comes down to connectivity and everything, they both do support 5G. Of course, these are T-Mobile variants on both of these models, so no issue with connectivity as far as Wi-Fi and things like that. Now, going on over to the battery, the Motorola does have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. It does support up to 20 watt wired charging, but it does not come with a charger in the box, so keep that in mind. You're going to have to find yourself a charger. The T-Mobile variant does not come with a charger. If you were to buy this from Motorola or anybody else, AT&T, it will come with a charger, but for some reason T-Mobile left that out. No wireless charging over here. While over here on the LG Velvet, you get a 4,000 milliamp hour battery with 25 watt wired charging and 9 watt wireless charging. Of course, if you were to buy this device new or find it anywhere else, it did come with a charger in the box, so fantastic. As far as battery life goes, I might have to give that to the Motorola just because it has a larger milliamp hour battery. The Velvets have not been well known for battery life. They'll get you through a day, but the Motorola, easily 2 days, guys. I did not charge this phone for 2 days, and by the time I did, I was like at 20%. I was like, okay, finally got to charge it. 24 hours later, this phone just kept going and going, while the LG over here would probably die after a day of usage. It might get you through a day, it might not, but battery life on the Velvets have not been pretty good, while over here on the Motorola, definitely kicking the Velvet's ass when it comes down to battery life. So as far as pricing goes, the Motorola can be had on T-Mobile for $300. If you were to go to Motorola's website, it might be $399, but that version is going to be the 256 gigabyte variant, while over here on T-Mobile, it's the 128, which is why it's a little cheaper. While over here on the Velvet, you could definitely find this used for like 200 bucks, guys. The Velvet, definitely worth the buy, especially for the price. It's an older device, but man, it's still a goodie. It's an old phone, but it's still a fantastic phone, and it still takes excellent shots. In my opinion, you may not get, updates timely on the LG Velvet, but you still will get at least another year's worth of updates. And while over here on the Motorola, you'll get updates, but Motorola is not known for their update history when it comes down to timely updates, so keep that in mind. The LG Velvet definitely way cheaper than the Motorola. And as far as performance goes, they're probably about the same. Might have to give that to the Motorola just because it has a newer chipset on there. So what do you guys think of this spec comparison between the LG Velvet and the Moto G Stylus 2023? Comment down below. I really appreciate you guys joining me here and wasting about 16 minutes of your life hearing me ramble about devices. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time here on Sick Eric Tech. Peace.